Right, good afternoon, one and all. My name's Stephen Kelly. I'm the Education and Training Officer for Under One Roof. Also with me today is Jordan Reid, but we're having IT problems, as you can imagine. So Jordan is in the background listening to us. So he'll be able to answer any questions if you've got any as we go through the presentation. On the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see 4 headlines. 1, chat. Any question, anything you've got to comment about, put it in that box. We will have Q&A beside it, so if you've got any questions during the course of the presentation, please put them in there and we'll answer them at the end. We've then got polls, which will tell you polls, if there's things, you know, who's liking it, who's not liking it. And then there's a line up there for handouts as well. Okay, so as I say, hopefully everybody can see me and see my slides, and I will start in a second. But first I say, I'd like to introduce Jordan Reid to you, who's the Senior Private Sector and Investment Officer with Falkirk Council. And he was going to give information on the private sector housing team, but he will provide that in writing during the course of my presentation. So if everybody can see my slides, I will just begin. And hopefully you can still see me and see the slides. Okay. So, as I say, we're here to look at navigating tenement repairs. And the first slide you can see there's just under one roof. So, who are under one roof? There we go. So, Scotland, Under One Roof are Scotland's only charity providing free and impartial information on repairs, maintenance, retrofit for tenement flat owner, occupiers, landlords, and house professionals. Basically, anybody who's got a stake in tenement property. So that could be owners, landlords, private tenants, local authority staff, private sector staff, letting agents, anybody who, I say, has got a stake in managing tenemental property within Scotland. You see the box at the bottom of this screen has got underoneroof.scot. That gives you access to our website, which has got lots of articles on it, on technical stuff, management information, maintenance inquiries, events, and that's the expert, which I'll come on to at the end of the screen. But please use it. It's been updated recently. It's more user-friendly for somebody as old as me. So please use the website. You'll find lots of information on that website for you. So I thought we'd start today by looking at what is a tenement. Now, people may well know what a tenement is. You've got older tenements, you've got newer tenements. In 2004, the Tenement Scotland Act introduced a definition of what it classified as a tenement. So as opposed, in addition to tenement flats, I say old and new, we've also got cottage flats or 4 in a block for those of a housing nature. We've also got converted villas, which used to be villas that you'll see in the area. This one person stayed in years gone by, probably in the West End of Glasgow. They were either tobacco lords or rich bankers, and they've now been converted into 3 or 4 flats. So they come under the Tenement Scotland Act as well as a tenement and high-rise multi-storey flats. As it says at the bottom of this slide, it does not cover detached, semi-detached, terraced or townhouse properties. But if you go onto our website, you will find information that you may find relevant to yourself if you stay in a house. So when we're looking at going through the tenement process to repair and manage your own property, there is relevant legislation. There's legal information out there that you have to adhere to. And the first one is your title deeds. We've all heard of title sheets and deed of conditions. And this basically tells you what you can do, what you can't do in terms of your own property. It tells you what parts of the building are commonly owned. So that may well be the roof, it may well be the back court, it may well be the close, it may well be the fabric of the building, and what your responsibilities are for maintaining those common areas. Also includes which elements are classified as individual and mutual responsibilities. So an example of a mutual responsibility may well be a tenement building, but the drainage system, the downpipes go down one side of the building on either side of it. So if the drainage is going down one side of your building and it's a 4-storey or 3-storey high, only those owners on that side of the building will be responsible for repairing that drainage pipe. and the same on the other side. Another example is what's classified as individual mutual. May well be you're in a property where you get two main door flats. So the two main door flats will not be responsible for any repairs to the close of that building unless they've got access to the close. Now that may well be they've got a side door to the property or they've got access to the close. And probably what people are more interested in is the title deeds let you know how you can split costs of maintenance between owners. So who's responsible for what and how much you've got to pay it. Is it an eighth of a share, a sixth of a share, or whatever? Now, the title deeds have always been here for years and years and years. But in 2004, probably prior to that actually, probably 2003, they looked at that. But in 2004, the Tenement Scotland Act introduced the Tenement Management Scheme, which can be used, as I say, if the titles are on silent or unworkable in certain areas. So over the years, properties have changed. And if you go into the title deeds, there might be something that's not covered on the title deeds. Or it may be the split of costs are over 100%. If so, you can refer and use the Tenement Management Scheme as the default scheme for getting works done. The other relevant legislation at this stage in the presentation is the Housing Scotland Act 2006, which changed the way councils help owners by giving them powers to force owners to carry out maintenance. Now, part of that included no more grants for fabric works. Now, I'm old enough and stupid enough to remember the days where people could go to the local authority and ask for a grant for a new roof or central heating or anything else within their property that they could not afford, but the council will give them money for that. Those days are gone. No more grants unless they're statutory for items like disability grants. So if you're getting a wet floor shower, stair lift, or a ramp, then the council will still give you grants for that because they're statutory. And the council introduced a scheme of assistance, which is basically advice and information for owners on how to go about getting jobs done. Now, that would be leaflets, newsletters, how they make signposts in the way of getting finance for the job. They might come out and assist you with giving you information on a trusted trader scheme, for talk's sake. And lastly, Housing Scotland Act and the council's possibly use of missing shares. And as I say, there are currently 14 out of 34 councils use a missing shares scheme. It's not free money. You've got to jump through hoops and complete application forms for the council to consider whether they will give you a missing share. Even if they do say, yes, that's fine, we'll pay your share of the overall cost of the work. As I say, it's not free money. I did a presentation down in South Ayrshire a couple of weeks ago and learned during that presentation that if you got a missing share from South Ayrshire Council, they would add £300 onto the bill for admin to record it on your title, and there would be 10% interest charge at the end of the day. So although you maybe got a share of £10,000 from the council, if and when you sold your property, you would have to pay back the £10,000 plus a £300 admin fee plus 10%, which is £1,000, so £11,300 you'd have to pay back to the council. And as I say, only 14 or 32 councils within Scotland operate this system. And given the financial predicament councils find themselves in, there might be less than 14, and whoever knows, in 6 months' time. As I say, unlike the grants, it is not free money. The money's got to be paid back to the council. Okay. Down here. There we go. So, as we touched on, the title deeds are sacrosanct. So if your title deeds are full and they cover all the bases as far as common areas and maintenance is concerned, they have to be used. However, if there's gaps or there's defects or it's silent or unworkable, just using legal terms here, then the Tenement Management Scheme can help make flat owners' responsibilities clearer. Very similar to the title deeds, but owners can make it easier for them to get works done. Okay. Lists of common parts, explains how you come to agreements about maintenance, Again, importantly, tells you how the maintenance costs are shared between owners. You can amend any previous scheme decision that has been made, and you can appoint or dismiss a property manager or factor. One big change the tenement management scheme did was it recognised or said that the roof is now a shared responsibility. Prior to that, the roof was only the responsibility of the two top floor owners. As I say, in big red light in there, unless the titles say otherwise. If you go into our wonderful website, Under One Roof, you'll have lots of information, lots of relevant articles. But on every page, you'll see that in red writing, unless the titles say otherwise. And if you put an inquiry through to me, I will say, have you checked the titles first? Okay. Keep into that thing. Another thing was introduced in 2003, I think it was. Sorry. Was they introduced a development management scheme. And this is used for property developers for large scale developments with wonderful names like the Paddock, the Fairways, Queen's Gate, the Cooperage. They're a set of rules for ongoing, they call it an ongoing management of a community, but it's a large development. It may well just be houses. It could well be a mix of townhouses, flats, back and front doors, semi-detached, terraced. But this development management scheme will give you rules of how to manage that area. 9 times out of 10, there will be a factor appointed by the developer, be it Barratt, Persimmon Homes, Bellway Homes. And I say, included in that is the power to appoint or dismiss a manager. Now, if it's on your development, I think I'm correct in saying that the property manager is there for 5 years from the sale of the last property. So if they've got a property of 300 developments, they've not sold the last one till today, and a factor has been appointed that from today, if the last property is sold, you can't dismiss a manager for at least 5 years. Okay. So finally, a legal management position before we go into actually organising repairs is that you operate to the rules set out in the titles. As I say, the titles are sacrosanct. They must be followed. However, as I say, if there's gaps in the titles, then you can use number 2. You can use the tenement management scheme to manage any repairs or manage the building. If you stay on your development, you use the development management scheme. Or you could operate under a combination of 1 and 2. Okay. So although I say the titles are sacrosanct, if you stay in a building where you may have mixed tenure properties, particularly say shops at the bottom, or you may stay in a tenement property where somebody's flat is 1.5 times bigger than your flat, and generally speaking, they would have to pay more money for works to get done. But if they're playing hardball, then owners can get together and say, well, this particular case, we'll just split it 8 ways, as opposed to holding back and putting back any works you have to get done. Okay. So as I say, the tenement management scheme can be used if the deeds are slightly unworkable, or all owners agree it can be used as an alternative. So, if you've got a factor, then the factor has now been regulated. And the Property Factors Act was introduced in 2011. It's got 3 main elements. Public register of property factors. Every factor in Scotland who claim to be a factor have to register their business. And if they're not, they can either be fined up to £5,000 or then go to jail for 24 months. Unlikely it's ever going to happen, but there is a public register of the Scottish Government. You can find if somebody's a factor and check they are a properly registered factor. More importantly for everybody who's got a factor, they have to now adhere to a code of conduct. So the rules and regulations they've got to adhere to when they're delivering services to owners. And the last element introduced in 2011 was the first tier tribunal. If you're not happy with your factor and you complain to them, then you can take it further up to the first tier tribunal. 2 provisions on that. You must have exhausted the property factor's own complaints policy, and the first tier tribunal will make a decision based on your complaint. They won't sack the factor. They may well raise an issue with how they communicate with you, how they manage their repairs. So it'll be a particular action that the factor would not have done properly that the House First Tier Tribunal may well have made a decision on. Okay. As I say, the Code of Conduct has got 7 sections to it. Section 1 is a written statement of service. A factor must provide a written statement of service to each homeowner within 4 weeks of a new owner moving in, or within 4 weeks of them being appointed. As I say, it's got 7 sections. The most important ones is, well, the first 2 or 3. One is the authority to act. Who has given them permission to manage your tenement? Is it a group of owners who have sacked a previous owner or self-factored and think we need a factor? Is it a developer who has appointed them, let's say through a development management scheme, a bigger development? Or is it custom and practice? You'll find a lot of factors throughout Scotland who have always managed this development. I've never been appointed, they've all been here. So it's custom and practice. Services provided. What service are they going to provide? How are they going to manage the repairs and maintenance? How are they going to contact you? How are they going to bill you? How many times do they visit your property or your tenement to inspect it? Also in the written statement of service with their financial and charging arrangements. When they're going to bill you, what they're going to bill you, what's their management fee? What commission did they get off? If they're giving you a block insurance policy, what commission have they received? And how did they decide to go with Aviva or Direct Line or whoever else is out there? Communications arrangements. How do you contact them and how do they contact you? Is it phone numbers, email? Is it newsletter? Does it have to be in writing? What are their opening hours, etc.? Declarations of interest. Do they own any property in the building that they manage? Have they got a relationship with one of the contractors? Maybe a board member, it may be a member of staff whose uncle works with the plumbers. Those informations have to be detailed in the written statement of service. And how to end the agreement. You'll probably find this in the small print at the bottom, but you can end the agreement with a factor. Don't tell them they can. You can, if you get and you adhere to your title deeds to change a factor. Okay. So if you've got a factor, they manage the repairs for you. Here's what should be in place. Obviously, if you're talking about major repairs, then advance payments are required for major works. They won't go arranging the work until everybody's contributed at least the deposit. However, on day-to-day basis, they should have procedures for you to contact the factor in any repair issue. I sometimes think this should be a two-way street. The factor should be contacting owners to see if they were out looking at your property, they've maybe identified a fault. Then they can say to the owners, I found a problem with the downpipe. What do you want me to do about it? Obviously, there should be a cost threshold that's been agreed with the owners for instructing minor works. That could be £300, £500, £1,000, whatever it is. That's been agreed with owners for instructing minor works. It may be a door handle that's fallen off a controlled entry door or a front closed door. Then, rather than holding a full meeting and contacting you, then there may be a threshold agreed with them that they can just go ahead and do that work. If you're talking major works, there should be communication on the progress of works or lack of progress. Maybe that not everybody's paid, and it may be a cancellation because they cannot arrange the work due to half the close not paying their share. Emergencies. What is an emergency? What do they classify as an emergency? What are the out-of-hours procedures? Do you have a list of contractors? Do they have an out-of-hours phone call centre? Whatever. What is the contractors going to do? Are they going to do temporary work, or are they going to complete the work on one fell swoop? Obviously, temporary work may well be high winds, tiles have blown off a roof, A lot of contractors won't go on the roof at that stage. They may well get on and do a tarpaulin job, and then they'll come back on a drier day and complete the works. Do contractors need access? And if they do, how are they going to get into the close? And what they should have also is a process for liaising with contractors for bad jobs. So a lot of the invoices will come into factors' offices and they may well just sign them off. But they should have a process and a procedure for liaising if they get a complaint to say they fixed that door handle for talking's sake and it's fallen back off again. So that's the factor side of things, if you've got a factor. So organising works. What we've always say here is consider professional advice for major works, as it could save you money. In a previous life, in a previous local authority, I worked with care and repair, and there was a woman in Greenock who called us out eventually that she'd spent £200 a year getting her flat roof painted. That wasn't the problem. The problem was it needed replaced. And until we get involved, she was about £600 out of pocket before we went down, identified the fault and got it rectified for her. Now, it still cost about £500 on top of that, but she could have saved herself £600 if she had considered professional advice for any works. So, you organise the works, you identify the repairs, you inform all their owners who got on with, you get competitive quotes, you agree to go ahead, everybody pays their share, you sign a contract, you deal with any on-site issues, you sign off the works, and people pay their balance. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Fortunately, it never works that way. If it did, there'd be no requirement for under one roof, and I'll be out of job. So, if you're organising works, there's certain things you have to do. The first thing is proper procedures. So, as I touched on earlier, if you go into our website, you'll see in most pages, check your title deeds first. If you go through maintenance works, repair sub, you'll see this springing up. Proper procedures must be adopted at all times. Now, as I say under procedures at the top of the page, an owner can appeal against decisions if these procedures have not been followed. So I sat in West Lothian and did a presentation and told by a lady in the audience that she didn't need this because all her and her neighbours got on fine. They all spoke to each other and they never had a problem doing any repairs. And I said, that's great. So what happens if somebody moves out and I move in and I'm the bad apple and I don't want to pay and I don't want to adhere to anything? So for somebody like me, you've got to use proper procedures. Because as I say, I can appeal against any decision if proper procedures have not been followed. So if you're arranging works, everything should be, and I've said must be recorded in writing, it's the best way to do it. So if you're having a meeting, the purpose of the meeting, an agenda, take minutes, decisions, everything should be in writing. That way, me, the bad apple, can't complain. Do you have a problem tracing owners and landlords? If it's owners, contact Register of Scotland. If it's landlords, contact your local authority landlord registration team. They may have details of the owner. Or check the Scottish Landlord Register. The last item under proper procedures is voting. And as I say, there's one vote per flat, irrespective of how many people stay in that property and irrespective of how many people own that property. So it may be a man and a wife, it may be man, wife, child, still only get one vote per flat. A majority decision is required to progress with maintenance plans is binding on all owners. Unless, of course, your title deeds say otherwise. But generally speaking, majority decision is required to progress. So if you've got a property of 8 and you hold a proper meeting, you send out an invite to a meeting with the agenda and the purpose of the meeting, and 3 people don't turn up to that meeting, but the 5 people turn up to the meeting and go, yeah, we're going to go ahead and do the works. That's binding on all those that didn't turn up. Now, don't be wrong, they'll have 21 days to appeal against any decision. But if you've done it properly, then a majority decision means you can go ahead and start organising the works. However, downside to that is a tied decision, e.g. 4 out of 8 owners agreeing is not a majority decision. So technically speaking, you cannot go ahead. However, If the repair to that property is of an emergency nature, then you can maybe use the duty to maintain or emergency repairs. Each owner, as it says, a duty to maintain parts of the tent, provide support and shelter. Come from housing background, as you call it, wind and water type. You're talking about roofs, generally speaking. The duty can be enforced by affected owners. So if the two people at the top of the tenement flat, the water's ingress is going into their property, they can go ahead and arrange the work. Doesn't require majority agreement, although we'd obviously recommend you try to do this. Downside to it is there's no obligation on other owners to pay up front, but they'll be responsible once the works are completed. Same thing for emergency repairs, same idea. You've got water cascading into the property. It may well be there is a loose bit of stonework of your property that's not rectified. It could fall into the street and maybe damage somebody or a car, whatever. Or it could be in the interest of health and safety. Maybe something to do with your water supply. You have to get that cleaned out so people don't get disease through the water supply. Emergency repairs, very similar to the duty to maintain. They cannot wait for a scheme decision. You're sitting in the top floor flat, the water's cascading into your property. You can arrange those works yourself. Okay. Fortunately, if fellow owners do not pay their share, then consider to take legal action to recover the costs. In all these occasions, don't forget your council. I know the councils, as I said earlier on, now don't provide grants. They may provide missing shares and they provide a scheme of assistance. However, your council have powers open to them and they can assist you. So if you've got a problem, contact your council. If you don't ask, you don't get. So they can issue work notices. They can issue maintenance orders. They can put a closing order on a property, or a disrepair defective building notice can be issued as well. So by all means, contact your council if you're unsure where to turn. And they either will advise you or they will use their, can't remember the thing they do now, as opposed to doing grants. Okay. But don't forget to contact them. Another one that springs up regularly on our query pages is finding contractors. Word of mouth, as I say, that can be a useful starting point. However, try your own local authority. They may have that trusted trader scheme. Okay. Or you can check the following website: Scottish Trading Standards, Trustmark, Master Builders, Roofing Contractors, Electrical Contractors. I wouldn't recommend you try Yellow Pages, because I could start up a plumbing firm tomorrow and I might know one end of a U-bend to the next. And Yellow Pages, or Yellow as they call them so now, will basically just take money off you. So first port of call, if you know a contractor, ask them to do the work. If you don't, use your local authority's trusted trader scheme or check Scottish Trading Standards or Trustmark or these other organisations. Okay. So although you may have contractors, we'd always recommend that you do other checks for contractors. First one is, do they have a public liability insurance? Most importantly, do they have a health and safety policy? We'd also ask you to check if they got membership of a trade association. Ensure the contractor's an office address and uses head paper. I've had a few bits of paper stuck through my letterbox saying we're clean the gutters, but that's all it is. It's written in a bit of paper. No name, no pack drill, just a price. If that has been charged, is there a VAT number? We now live in the era of social media, so you can check the internet, Instagram, Facebook, X, Blue Sky, whatever is social media that are out there, TikTok, check them as well. Pardon me. If the contractor's not a sole trader, you can check Companies House website. And you can check whether the contractor's been issued a health and safety enforcement notice. So there's a lot of checks out there you can use before you give the contractor the go-ahead to do the work. Other one that springs up is paying for repairs. Now, owners are responsible for paying their share of any repairs. It may seem an obvious thing to say, But a lot of owners think they're not responsible for paying their share of any repair, or they're not responsible for certain parts of the building. That will be made clear in the title deeds what they're responsible for. They have to pay repairs. Here's some examples of how to go out without paying for repairs. Use your own savings account or consider joining a credit union. You could take out a loan. Obviously, if you're taking out a loan, we'd always advise you to contact a financial advisor to make sure that loan is good for you and you're able to pay that back. You may well take an additional mortgage out, whatever. But again, take financial advice before you do that. If you're on welfare benefits, you may be able to get a crisis grant from the Scottish Welfare Fund. But with the budget on tomorrow, that might change as well. You can speak to family or friends, whether that's a positive or a positive thing to do. Who knows? You know your family and friends better than I will. You can consider equity release. Again, there's good products out there, there's bad products. It may take time. That's a negative thing of it. You may have to consider your family's views if you're going to release equity in your property. In an ideal world, you would have a joint maintenance account or a building reserve fund. Fortunately for all people that want to pay, there will be those that can't pay or refuse to pay. If an owner is unable to pay, if somebody says, look, I can't afford this, advise them to contact Citizen Advice or our money advice centres for financial advice and support. However, when an owner refuses to pay, you can contact your council if they use missing shares. As I said before, there are rules attached. It's not free money. And it should be notified noticed that if it is missing shares, it can only be agreed before the work starts. You can't do the work, chap flat 2-1's door and say, right, okay, you owe me £1,000. And then they say, I can't afford it. Oh, sorry, council may pay. Council will only pay if it's been agreed before the work starts. You can proceed to instruct the repair, settle the bill with the contract, and then invoice the owner for their share. Owner still not playing ball. You can consider sending the owner a letter of intent to sue. That if they don't pay the bill, you'll take them to court. Which follows on the next bit. You could raise a payment action in the sheriff court to recover payment from the owner. A simple procedure if shares less than £5,000. Or depending on the cost of the work, you could simply split the bill between the owners willing to pay. Divide it by 7 rather than 8. So if you've got a job from my easy mind at £800 and it's £100 each, and one owner says, I'm not going to pay, you could decide to split it between the 7 of you. And 7 into 800 is 1 or 3, that's about £12.50, rather than go to court to try and get the money back. Okay, there we go. So, as I say, the bottom line is you could take legal action against the person. For example, where an owner refuses to pay. You've got a simple procedure if the outstanding sum is less than £5,000. However, it's anything but a simple procedure, as you'd imagine with courts. You would have to provide all information you have got of why that person is not paid. Do you have proper procedures? Do you have quotes? Have you got evidence of minutes, decisions taken, communication with them? However, it's out there for you. It costs £20 if the claim's less than £300, or £110 for any other claim. So in over £301, it would cost you £110 to get that £400 or £301 back. Pardon me. If the sum's over £5,000, then the ordinary cause procedure adopted, and you're probably better to use a solicitor. You could use a solicitor for the simple procedure as well, but if it's over £5,000, there's going to be more work involved. You should consider using a solicitor. However, as we say at the bottom, making a lengthy process with no guarantee of return. So you might consider community mediation schemes which are out there. Circles here, where we're going. There we go. Another issue that crops up in the queries we get is notice of potential liability. So you've 8 people up a block of flats and you all agree to proceed with works, whatever the work is. And we all agree, well, we're going to pay £500 for this work. That's great. But then before the work starts, I decide to sell my property. So What the other owner should do is then serve a notice of potential liability on that property. And what will happen then is that the selling owner will make the newer owner responsible for the repair costs. Although what generally happens is that, so say it's £1,000 and I want to sell my property for £100,000. If there's a notice of potential liability on my property, we'll come to an arrangement with the new owner that they'll pay the £1,000, but they'll reduce the sale price of my property by £1,000. So as I say, I owe £1,000 to get repairs done. I'm looking for £100,000. We would then agree I'll sell it for £99,000. The new owner buys for £99,000, but they'll need to stick through £1,000 to pay for the repair costs. So it says that the notice lasts for 3 years, it can be renewed. You can always check if it's been reserved on the Register of Scotland website. And sometimes factors use this notice. If they know somebody's going to sell their property, they may well put a notice of potential liability on the property that they can recover their costs when the property is sold. Okay. My Martin Luther King slide, I have a dream, proactive steps. We would always want owners to carry out your own visual checks on common areas, main doors, downpipes, anything that's common in your property. Now, whether that's getting out your car at night, whether it's getting off the bus, walking up the road in the train, have a look at your building and see if anything stands out as a possible problem for you. On our website, we have a DIY survey checklist. So please download that and use it. When I worked in the housing department years and years ago, we used to go out and check properties in the areas I worked in once a month. Just a straightforward tick sheet. Roof's all right, gutters okay, downpipes, etc. So carry out your own visual checks. We would always advise you to do that. Another thing we'd advise you to do is get your gutters cleaned and your roof checked annually. And that's not only just for the future problems that may appear if you don't get them checked annually. If you do have a problem and you have to raise it through your insurance company, they might not play ball. If they're saying, when was the last time the gutters were cleaned? 4 years ago. They'll just say, well, it's not been looked after. If your building's factored, you can ask them to visit your building on a more regular basis. It may increase your fees. That's the downside to that. You can negotiate with them and ask them to visit your building on a more regular basis. Some factors won't visit at all. Some factors will do it monthly. Some will do it every couple of months. Some will do it quarterly and some will do it twice a year. So once you establish how often your building is inspected by your factor, you can maybe decide whether they want to increase that regular occurrence. Consider getting your building surveyed every 5 years and establish a maintenance account or a building reserve fund or a sinking fund. The bottom two are part of future legislation that's going through Scottish Parliament. In 2019, the Tenement Working Group made proposals that in addition to getting a building surveyed every 5 years and establishing a building reserve fund, that there should be compulsory owners associations for every tenement in Scotland. In August this year, the Scottish Law Commission did a consultation paper and that was replied to. I think there was a lot of inquiries, a lot of replies, so there's currently going through Parliament with that. Under One Roof did support compulsory owners associations, but only proviso that it was tied in to getting your building surveyed and establishing a sinking fund. In the Republic of Ireland in 2011, I think it was, building reserve fund was made law, and that means that everybody who stays in a tenement flat had to stick away €200 a year into a reserve fund to pay for any future major repairs. Doesn't sound a lot of money, but trust me, it adds up. And it may help soften the blow if a bill comes through your letterbox at a later stage. As I said at the bottom, regular inspection of your common areas, followed by remedial work, will reduce the cost of repairs. If you don't do it, the cost of eventual repair work could be through, pardon the pun, through the roof. Okay. Finally, how can Under One Roof help? As I say, please use the website underoneroof.scot. Lots of articles in lots of different areas relevant to managing tenement property and maintaining tenement property. On the first page, you'll see Inquiry Service, Ask the Expert. Hit that button. It'll ask you for your email address, your local authority area, your status, are you an owner, a landlord, a council official, a factor, fill in that and it'll come through to me. And I will answer your query as quickly as I can. If I don't know the answer, I've got a band of people behind me from the legal profession, from the technical profession, who may be able to point me in the right direction so I can then point you in the right direction. And that's me. There we go. That's me finished. There's lots of writing down that side. Right, let's see. Right, so let's see. Get specs off of this. Right, so we've got that one. So that. What constitutes a defective building? It would depend what to answer Olivia, it depends what is defective about the building. Is it a roof? Is it the fabric? Is it controlled entry door? So it would depend what the actual fault is. For Olivia, if she wants to contact Under One Roof via our website and put her query through in more detail, then I can get back to you with a more concise answer. Well, Graham there says somebody gets a free job done. That's only, well, they don't get a free job done if you use proper procedures. If you're getting the works arranged and everybody's advised of it, they have got to pay their share of those repairs. And obviously, Graham's saying that the losses just keep mounting. There needs to be a better process to get folk take responsibility. If losses keep mounting up, you can eventually take them to court. Now, say simple procedures end under £5,000, but it's not, you can actually add all these jobs up. So if you're doing 5 different jobs and this person is not paying their share, you can then add up those jobs together. So Graham again said they do, if they don't pay, someone else has to. There's not a lot else I can say about that. That's, you know. You don't, well, you can have one action for all the work that has to be done. I mean, I don't know what else I can say to Graham. He's obviously not happy with other people not paying. So the court case is out there. It's the only thing that's available to people at the moment. Is there any other questions? No? Any comments from Jordan or questions for Jordan? No? Okay, if there's nothing else, I'd like to thank you for your attendance. Hope you found it informative. As I say, please use the website for any inquiries you've got on anything. As I say, we will answer the inquiries as quickly as we can to get back to you. Hold on. Got a question there for Olivia. A balcony was in disrepair and causing me stress. 1 hour's dragging their feet and getting repairs done. Please well. What I'd recommend, Olivia, if you can put an inquiry into me, I can then look and get you a more detailed reply to that rather than giving you a soundbite at the moment. Please use the website, put your inquiry through. Hold on, if I get my email address. If Olivia's got a pen, I can give you my email address if you want to contact me direct. It's stephen@underoneroof.scot. I can give you more detailed reply. Okay. As I say, there's nothing else to thank you for your attendance. I say hopefully you found it informative, but please use our website and get back to us. Thank you very much. Thank you. That was it.